England, Tom Brady, Belichick, look, they did it. He was a great quarterback, so everybody else is supposed to do it. It does not work that way. This game is extremely hard, but when you talk about the losing team, Aaron Rodgers won. He hasn't been back. 3 MVPs, and he has yet to go back to the Super Bowl, right? Think about it. Tom Brady won in 04, 05, I think those are the years, to start with. Then it took him 10 years to win another Super Bowl.
Full decade.
Look, it's hard. No matter how much we like Patrick Mahomes and we love his talent and his skill set, and I get it. But sometimes it's just not meant to be, even if we want to force it. You know, he got 15 years to go. Do I honestly think he'll get back to the Super Bowl? Yes. How many times? I don't know. But at the same time, I do recognize that it's extremely hard, Jay. And I've seen this movie so many times. Seattle's still trying to get back after they gave the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots on the interception at the end of the game. They still trying to get back, right? I mean, it's just, that's what happens.
I just feel like, Key, after watching that game last night, watching the way that the Bucs dismantled the Chiefs, and I know that Patrick Mahomes could then go off and potentially, if he were to win 4 down the line in 15 years, but there's no way he could surpass Tom Brady, in my opinion. There's no way that can ever happen. This game will forever be cemented with these two. I feel as if Tom Brady.
You mean when you say surpass him, you talking about in the total of winnings or just in
like the greatest of all time conversation?
Oh, okay.
Like the greatest of all, and it goes back to, you know, we'll get into this throughout the show. You know, if you consider Tom Brady to be the greatest athlete in team sports history,
I love that you stressed athlete.
I'm giving Tom Brady all of his flowers. I don't know if I'm going to give him that single one rose yet. I still think Jordan is that just because of the way he's been undefeated. But this picture of Tom Brady just having Patrick Mahomes on his shoulder. I'm telling you, that picture that you sent me last night is just forever ingrained in my mind right now. It felt like this was an older guy just saying, hey, let me show you how to do this, young fella, for the time being.
Here's what I would say. In basketball, it's a little bit different because in basketball, I recognize that Jay Will can only go to his right. So I'm going to push him to his left. We're going to close on the right and everything. We're going to force him to go left. What happened in that game last night is there's a blueprint out now. And that blueprint, regardless to what the offensive line looked like and how decimated the offensive line was, there's a blueprint that was put together by Todd Bowles. And that blueprint is, we need to confuse and mix up coverages and twists and stunts and rotations. It's something called a cat blitz. Y'all probably don't know what that means. It means corner cat. The corners are coming off the edge. He brought a double cat, something that does not happen. That's video game football. That is Madden 21 football. Double cat blitz where he brought both corners off the edge. He did that to Patrick Mahomes last night. Patrick Mahomes threw an incompletion. A double cat blitz. Nobody dials that up, man. Nobody. If you can, we can have Mike Tannenbaum, we can ask him. Dan Orlovsky's coming on with us in about an hour. We can ask him, when was the last time he saw a double cat blitz coming out of the secondary? Dan's probably going to say never in his entire career has he seen that.
12 years he played.
In his 12 years. Because they don't do it. They bring one. They're not going to bring both. But Todd Bowles brought both. So therefore, there's a blueprint out now that Copycat League is going to install during the offseason to say, let's do this to the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Let's do this. Let's confuse. And those teams are going to try to get to the Super Bowl next year.
But, Key, you don't think if this offensive line was healthy, if they didn't have certain players opt out at the beginning of the year, you don't think that would have given Patrick Mahomes a lot more time in the pocket? It seemed like it seems like he was taking 20 steps back in his drop multiple times. It just feels like they were coming at him 24/7. The line can hold nothing.
It's all about what Todd Bowles did, to be honest with you. It's not about the offensive line. I mean, that we could talk about the offensive line, and we could use that as
look
a
at
little
the
bit of an
pressures here.
excuse.
Look at the pressures. 29 pressures. He barely had time to breathe in the pocket.
Let me ask you a question, Coach. Did you watch the Green Bay game? Did you see Devin White in that group what they did, JPP in that group, what they did, and Shaq Barrett, what they did to Aaron Rodgers, the MVP, and that offensive line, and the pressure that came to bear against him? Did you watch the New Orleans game? Which I know you did. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
They've been doing this to everybody. So I don't want to use the offensive line as the major excuse as to why the defense was getting at Patrick Mahomes in the offense.
Oh, I'm not giving it. I'm not one of these guys that comes out after a loss, and I thought Casey was going to win to say, hey, here are my excuses on why you lost. You lost a damn game. You lost the game, right? There's nothing you can do. But to sit up here and say that, hey, their O-line wasn't decimated and that didn't play a major factor into all this, I think we would be remiss. Right?
The defensive line was going to get after them regardless. They could have had 5 All-Pros across the board on the offensive line. The fact of the matter is those dudes came to play, and they came reckless. I mean, and that is just what it is. And because of that, that blueprint is out there now. Teams in the offseason will study that game plan, and they will try to run that game plan back to Kansas City when they see them in 2021.
I would just say 2 things real quick, and one thing would be simple, and that is if you're a Chiefs fan, you can convince yourself, as everything that Key said, everything's a little bit up in the air right now, what's going on with Andy Reid, his family, Bieniemy's a free agent. He will obviously likely return as the offensive coordinator, but if you're a Chiefs fan, you can easily convince yourself, to Jay's point, my offensive line is decimated, and there's reputable reporting.
I'm sure James is doing that right now.
James took today off, by the way. Right. Stressful day for him.
Member of the crew who's a big Chiefs fan. It's tough to recover. And there's reputable reporting that Patrick Mahomes is going to need surgery on his toe. If you're a Chiefs fan and you tell me those 2 things, I would say, okay, last thing, 4 scenarios. Which was the most remote? Chiefs win tight, Bucs win tight, Chiefs win blowout, Bucs win blowout. In my opinion, the latter.
The latter, for sure,
right?
Zubin.
And that's why the NFL is awesome. Because the odds are that would never happen. And that's exactly what happened.
And I know we got to go, but think about it. The Rams just got Matthew Stafford. The Rams just picked up Matthew Stafford to try to make a run at the Super Bowl.
In their stadium?
In their stadium.
Sound familiar?
So, just go figure who the champions will be next year.
We'll see. And it's unpredictable. That's why the NFL is great. I can predict today on Greeny, I can predict on Greeny, Alex Smith, the comeback player of the year in the NFL. I think that was pretty obvious. And the great Howie Long, Greedy immediately following us on ESPN Radio. On the way, your calls. Line them up. It's the debate of the day. Key says no debate. Enjoy it. Who's the GOAT of all team sports? Was it number 12?
Glad you didn't use athlete.
Number 23? Number 8, number 24. You tell us. That's after Jay has this from Straight Talk.
It's time for some Straight Talk. Your tax return could look different this year, but you're still going to hear a lot of noise about how to spend it, right? So when the big